All right, it's time for Yogi and the Beachman. Hi, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach the Beachman.
We're two Michigan transplants now living in Southwest Florida.
In fact, we're cousins born in 1964, just a month apart.
I like to meditate.
And I like to play bass in a band.
I'm into chanting Om.
And I'm into throwing down some classic rock.
But together, we're on a mission
to promote people that are helping other people.
We want to make the world a better place.
One conversation at a time.
So sit back,
turn up the volume,
and get ready to laugh.
Because we like to have fun
while we spread the love.
Interviewing lovely people. Yes, we have fun.
Yes, before.
We changed our background a little bit. We've been doing that.
I like the turtle.
Thank you. It was in my living room, but my wife's like, I don't like that one. So she ordered another one, and we put this one here in the studio.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Rick. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Oh, you knew who he was. Nice.
Yeah. I was excited to meet both of you.
Excellent.
Kate May, I was there this summer.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I got this sweatshirt. I can't see that on my. You can though. It's interesting. I got this in a surf shop in Alabama.
Okay.
Of all places. But I have been there. Yeah, beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a little too beautiful. There was something like, whoa, this is kind of like another world.
Yeah, when I went, I was like, am I in Florida? It felt like Florida.
Oh, it's in like Carolinas, right?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah, the very southern tip of New Jersey.
Well, never been there.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
I spent a weekend in Atlantic City with our friend Joe Papernick.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's my only New
Were you
Jersey
gambling
trip.
or what were you doing?
Well, we were in the Navy and yeah, we did a little
fun. Okay.
A lot of partying.
Getting in trouble.
Yeah, when you're mid-20s, fun. So, did I see on your bio you're in Costa Rica. Where are you at now?
I am. Oh, I'm in Costa Rica right now. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Has it been chilly down there? Because in South Florida, it has been cold.
Not like Florida. I've seen the snow. Like I'm like, no, it's not chilly. No.
We were just talking about that. Isn't it crazy? I seen one picture on Facebook. It looks like they had like 8 inches where the border sign is on I-75. I was like, wow.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing it's supposed to get to 36 tonight here. So I have like 6 tomato plants outside. They're all coming in. My whole farm, my mini farm is coming in my house tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna probably lose some of my plants in Texas.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going back to my offices in Texas in like 10 days.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it warms up before I get there.
It's supposed to. I think it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week's supposed to be nice.
1, 2. Welcome back to Yogi and the Beachman. Today we are with Michelle Bohls. She's a licensed marriage family therapist, and she's down in Costa Rica. It's the first Central America guest, I believe, that we've had.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
We've had Canadians.
Yeah. People
from now England, you're truly international.
Yeah.
Where's the last?
Sweden.
Sweden.
Oh, well, that's pretty far away.
It is. Cool. So welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I was curious to find out like how these two cousins wound up doing a podcast to change the world. Like, how cool is that?
Well, that's kind of a neat story. We were just sitting around in his backyard in his lanai by his pool talking, and I said, man, this feels like we're doing a podcast. And he goes, I always wanted to do a podcast. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And there we went.
That's totally was my fantasy.
Yeah.
That's what I had in my head, was that you guys were just sitting around one day thinking, yeah, let's do it. And then you had the follow through to do it.
We scheduled it for like the next Tuesday, and we set it for every Tuesday evening we podcast, and we've been doing it since May.
It's so cool.
We've upgraded, bought some equipment. I play in a band, so I had
you're a bass player. I heard,
and but it helped out because I had cords and cables and microphones. I had a bunch of startup stuff that I've collected over the last ever, and just donated that to this house. And
you're the gear guy.
But I always wanted to be I'm really a political junkie, and I think the last 5-6 years has been fun to be a political junkie.
Yes, it
And
has.
more
The
so
show
now.
is just going.
So I really wanted to have that type of themed thing, because Jim and I, we're good on a bunch of stuff, but we separate politically at some point. So that kind of, but that didn't really jive, and there was conflicts, and not really between us, but it was a little more contentious, and then Jim was like, that sucks. Let's go this route. I'm like, okay. So so it did, and it has, and now we're on like 60 episodes, and it was really exciting because Jim told me last week. He goes, "Man, we just hit like."
Today is our 60th episode with you.
It is it?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah.
And
Well,
goes,
I think what you're saying is really cool because conversations can be very divisive, and they they can bring up a lot of, I don't know, like fear that we're different, and that can be very disconnecting, and it's hard to have, it's more fun to talk about things we all are interested in. The same thing, right? It's just more fun.
I don't know. I find myself that I enjoy talking, especially to someone who in the political realm. Okay.
Yeah.
I enjoy I want to have that conversation with someone on the other side of the fence, because I'm really educated on these topics. And
he's always right.
I'm well aware.
Okay, so we'll talk later. We'll talk later, Rick, because I would love to talk to you about all that. But I like the intention in your opening about like improving the world and having fun, and yeah. So I was hoping that we could do that, and we were talking about maybe money would be a fun topic.
Absolutely. I just wanted to back up a little bit to when you said, how did we have this little transition? I didn't even know if Rick would come on board. All of a sudden I said, hey, we're taking this podcast in a different direction, kind of like steered the ship. And it was like, are you on board or not? He's like, yeah, sure. So I was like pretty excited about that. But it was really from doing some psychedelic mushrooms that made me want to do it. Because in some experience that I was having on mushrooms, I kept getting this: people are suffering, people are suffering. And I was always a yoga teacher, and yoga is about helping to alleviate suffering. And I thought, and I've been trying to figure out, well, how to answer the mushrooms. I don't know what to do to help people alleviate suffering. And then it came to me, I was like, well, we started this podcast. Let's transition it to helping people. And that's the answer. So we're trying to alleviate suffering in the world, helping people, one conversation at a time, like we say. So,
and in the last 7 months that we've been doing this, 7-8 months now, it's really helped me on a whole bunch of issues I didn't really even know I had, that I've addressed, whether my personal life, professional life, and for the 20th time, I'll say it again, it's like a weekly or bi-weekly therapy session for me.
Yeah.
It really is. And I've opened up myself to all new ways of thinking that I would have never even, I kind of thought, Jim was doing his thing before with his meditation and his yoga and blah, blah, blah.
That crazy guy.
Well, and I mean, I kind of somewhat dismissed it because I was much more in the material world.
Yeah.
And okay, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, blah, blah, blah. And now it's, I don't know. It's just how it's cool.
Yeah, conversations are very healing.
Yeah, and we've been having so many different speakers on for so many different modalities, and learning about energy and chakras and kundalini and so many things that have educated both of us and really helped uplift us and move us in a more positive direction in life, I feel. So,
but we went through some bumpy times at the beginning. We got some kind of wacky people.
Well, I think you thought they were more wacky because you weren't open to a lot of it. It would be interesting to revisit some of those.
Maybe.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's a possibility, that I may have been much more judgmental in the beginning than I am now. But the guy in Michigan, I don't know about him.
I'm still on board with him.
No, I'm out. I'm still out.
I like that you listen to the mushrooms. I find that to be really interesting guidance on, any kind of journey to get guidance, like, oh, that's what the universe wants me to be doing. pretty powerful.
It is. It is. Yeah. When I was a travel nurse and out in California, I was started needing release from the stress of nursing, and I kind of got away from my spirituality and just started partying. Really, I hadn't drunk alcohol for 20 years and started drinking, and then that led into heavy drinking and like crazy partying with some other nurses, and then tripping with them. I really don't like to use that word tripping because I think it's such a healing medicine, mushrooms are, but it works. And then they started showing me, like, you're becoming the fool, the party fool. Is that really what you want to do with your life? Look at where you've been, what you've done with your life. And then all of a sudden you're going here. And it was kind of like a slap in the face. I was like, yeah, what am I doing? And then later, experiences with the mushroom, especially right after my brother-in-law died of alcohol poisoning. And I had a healing journey right after his death where I actually felt like I experienced the suffering that he was going through, and then more experience of other people suffering and kind of how everyone's suffering. And I was like, okay, well, okay, fine. Yeah. But again, what do I do about it? I'm one person. What can I do? So it's really a call to that, how do I help others?
Yeah. And Rick. How you gotta help
me
Rick
at the same time.
Yeah. I joked with him recently. I told him it's my master plan for his transition in life, his spiritual awakening.
And there kind of has been one. I don't know if my spiritual side has, it certainly has been influenced by doing this for sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, it sounds like you're kind of a practical guy, Rick. So, if it makes sense, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like you're an open-minded person, but some of this was really foreign.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend brought some people into my life who got me going to, hey, let's go to church. And this is probably at the end of last year, maybe October, September-ish. And I really enjoyed that. Through them, I've met some other people, and then just that whole acceptance or being open to accepting, prayer is a powerful tool, which I've been taking advantage of and see it working. And just the coincidences that I'm seeing now that just can't be coincidental. I'm getting some signs, is what I'm saying. And I believe that that's happening. I'm not saying I'm a person of the greatest faith on the planet, although I would aspire to be that.
Yeah. I'm working the faith journey too, and it's hard. It's hard. Like
it kind of is. And even just talking about this is only like the third or fourth time I've even mentioned this to anybody, but I'm reading the Bible and then going through these passages. I started with the New Testament. I'm on the third one. I'm on like Luke 14 now. And but it just when you have to, if you're gonna accept Jesus into your life, you can't be ashamed of preaching it or telling people about it.
but it's really hard.
It is, because I'm always afraid of getting judged on that by whomever.
It's interesting you say that, because there is a fear of being judged for me too, but it's also a fear of alienating people, because I have so many friends who are Jewish or atheist or agnostic or just more spiritual, and their idea of Jesus is that I would judge them. And it's just really it's a lot, but I think that more and more of us are getting curious, like, hey, what is that? Like maybe there's something really valuable that I sort of dismissed. Yeah, I think I dismissed the Bible and Jesus really early, and I went all the other ways and read all the other stuff and kind of studied it like intellectually, and now I'm coming back more from my heart and like trying to have a relationship, and I've had relationships with what I consider like spirit guides, ancestors, whatever. I don't really know who they are, but we just like felt like the mushrooms, right? Like getting some guidance, getting some feeling loved. And then now going, well, I could probably talk to Jesus just like I talked to my guides. And yeah, it's just a very bizarre journey, kind of like snow in Florida. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is not what I had planned or expected. And how do I navigate it personally and publicly?
Yeah, I actually went
Yeah.
through the similar situation or experience when I was in my 20s, and I was in the Navy, and I was pretty much considering myself an atheist for a while. But then I had some experiences that said, okay, yeah, maybe I do believe. But I really struggled with Catholicism. I was raised Catholic, and I turned away from that. And then I really made, a switch from like, I don't want anything to do with Christianity. Nothing. No Christianity in my life, period. I'll get this from somewhere else. And then I stumbled onto the book The Course in Miracles.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's
I was like,
powerful.
all right, I guess I have to accept some Christianity, because that book, if you get into it, it's said that it's really channeled through this woman from Jesus, and that these are really his words. And what a powerful book. And I studied it for a long time, and it was like, okay, it's funny how like almost instantly after I said, okay, I'm done with Christianity, this book appears, and I was really intrigued by it, and I start reading, and I'm like, oh wow, this is so Christian based. But
Mm-hmm.
luckily I was open enough to accept it. So
Well, whether I mean, following Christian values is really the basis of all, laws and other
Yeah.
religions,
No,
which
I like
I'm
how
sure.
it does intersect with the political. It does, I like where that intersects, where it's like, yeah, there's God's law, and that's ultimate. That's the ultimate
Kind of what our stuff
idea.
is based on.
Yeah.
But getting back to what I was saying about as far as, just professing it or talking about it, it's not the easiest thing. And you said, what about my Jewish friends or my someone who might be an atheist or whatever? But you can kind of feel that energy immediately. If you bring that up and then they recoil, blah, blah, and then you can just back off. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not
Exactly.
going to turn into street side preacher or anything like that.
Right.
For certain.
Exactly.
But I think it comes just like, I'm sure you probably have spoken in front of groups or are comfortable with that.
Yeah.
The first time you were probably petrified.
Yes.
Second time you were nervous but not quite as scared.
Exactly. It gets
Third time
easier.
you feel cool about it, and then by the third time you just want more of it. It's like being on stage in the band. The first time you're petrified, and then I start jonesing if I'm not in,
Not getting up there.
making noise with my buddies.
Yeah.
But that's the same as just talking about your faith. The more you
Yeah.
do, the easier it gets, or lack thereof, or lack of faith. To say, hey, I need help with this, or maybe. I mean, I've been thinking about actually making an appointment with the preacher at the 1,000-person church who doesn't know I'm there, other than the checks he gets every week. But but to kind of help me take that next step. So, are you like in the same? You said you're thinking about going, or you've.
I
You're
mean,
kind of looking down that path
church
too?
is harder. Church is harder for me. Like a personal relationship, reading the Bible. That's kind of where I'm at.
Why is church hard for you?
Because it's made of humans.
Okay.
And
No, I get that.
and I've done different churches. I grew up Catholic. I did the Unitarian Church for many years. And yeah, and even in like the organization that I work in now, the IMAGO organization, like we agree on the philosophy, but then living the philosophy is much harder. And people tend to get drawn unconsciously into positions of power, and all of a sudden we're not living what we said we wanted to live.
Exactly.
Right.
I've really
Including
struggled with church
myself.
that way as myself.
That includes me too. Like,
Yeah.
so I do think, yeah, it would have to be sort of maybe divinely guided to the right community at this point. But I like that you found a place, Rick, because it sounds like you have friends there and you really feel
Well,
connected.
I didn't. Through my girlfriend, she introduced me to some friends who she met, around the horn, and then another totally independent other friend that I've known for 20 some years. Man, you should come to my church. Man, you should come to my church. The same church. So I went a couple
Wow.
times. I thought it was a little over the top, but someone kept saying I need to go back.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the commitment that I made to Jim when we committed to doing this and adhering to the schedule and doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 o'clock and whatever that case may be. Then I was kind of committing to those other folks at church that I'm going to be back. But
Yeah.
I'm going to send you the link to the service that it's on the internet every week. I'll send it to you.
Cool.
And I'll say, hey, the preaching starts about here because it's about an hour of music before. And the band is great, but
The band is
which
great.
I dig, especially
That's what got him.
especially
Yeah.
and it really was. It's part that hooked me.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like, man,
important
this
to
is-
you.
And no, because it just brought up the energy, and Jim and I have talked about this before. Just a feeling when you get in there and everyone's singing and feeling it. It's just cool. But yeah, it's been an interesting thing. But I'll send you a link to it.
Okay.
And he's very polarizing, but he's very matter of fact. Hey, this is what the Bible says.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, so a lot of people won't. He says about probably 60% of the people do not stay at this church. And I've seen him come and go in the short time I've been there, just because he's kind of fire and brimstone, but he's really, I don't know. I like it.
Okay, well, now you got me super curious. I'm gonna have
I will
to
for sure
listen.
send you a link today.
Okay.
But you mentioned IMAGO. Can you talk more about what that is?
Yeah, so Harville Hendrix, Dr. Harville Hendrix and Helen Kelly Hunt they're the founders. And it started with a book, Getting the Love You Want, which you may have heard about it. He was on Oprah a lot, and basically therapists were really liking what he said, and they started kind of following him and saying like, hey, train us, we want to understand. And it's a relationship therapy. It's how to work with relationships, but it was primarily for decades just couples, how to work with marriages, couples, how to hold a couple who's polarized on an issue and help them slow down and listen better and take turns and validate each other and try to understand where the other person's coming from. And, it's typical couples communication, but he did a really good job of creating a system. And so it's spread all over the world. It translates into different cultures quite easily because it's not really overly complicated. And what I like about it is it's really about the energy. It's about like this environment you're creating in the space between you. And how you can really nurture that energy so that it's a safe space even for differences, and it doesn't kind of pull towards competitive, who's right, who's wrong, arguing, those things that really just break the connection. And so we also train coaches or business leaders or churches to bring the model into the organizations, into the teams. But, it's like all good communication. It takes a lot of time. It's not very efficient.
Can you go a little deeper into the energy work and what that looks like for people that are in this program?
Yeah, well, I was listening to another podcast you did with I can't remember her name, but she had just wrote a book about like why are we fighting?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. T.
Yeah, I was listening to that, and you were both sharing a little bit about your relationships and how you respond, and you were both kind of fell into that category of like pull back, keep the harmony, keep the peace, right? And in IMAGO, we actually talk about that being like turtle energy, which I find it really funny. You've got a turtle.
Yeah.
And that the turtle energy is all about harmony and protecting the relationship. And so when there's conflict, the turtle tends to pull in, right? To protect yourself, but to protect the relationship. But typically the turtle winds up in a relationship with someone who's more octopus energy. And when you pull in, they put their little tentacles in there and they're like, come on, come on, what are you doing? And of course that doesn't feel good. And so then you pull away more and then the octopus comes in more. And so we, in all relationships, even in business, we can get polarized into those dynamics where one person is like, I care about the relationship and the harmony, but we have to solve this problem first. And the other one's like, no, let's just have peace. And then the problem will kind of disappear. And they're both,
yeah,
they're both right. I mean, in IMAGO, we really believe that the problem will disappear when we come back into connection. That whatever we think is the problem is not really true, right? The real problem is we feel disconnected.
Yeah, or hurt, or some other emotion, I guess.
Exactly. Hurt, all of the kind of, we have hurt because of the disconnection. And so the octopus is more likely to bring a problem to say, hey, there's a problem here, let's solve it. And that can hurt the turtle, but usually the octopus is hurt to begin with. I mean, it's just like, but what we really want is to be connected. That's what we really want.
Yeah.
To feel those feelings, like at a church when there's music and there's praise and we're like, yes, I'm loved and you're amazing. Like we want that. But our wiring, all of our wiring is designed to protect us. It's designed, like you had been talking a little bit about triggers and digging into triggers, and like it's designed to trigger us, because if we aren't triggered, we won't get to safety. We will be in the sun too long. We won't go seek out water. We're wired to seek our resources. It's just that when our partner's our resource, our intention is to connect, but sometimes the way we're going about it causes more problems.
Yeah, I think you're hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just normal. It's just a normal dynamic.
Well, I certainly have changed since I was my first marriage. I was married for almost 20 years, and I was the octopus, where she would
That's what's so interesting. Yeah.
She would just go in, not talk to me, blah blah blah. After a few hours, it just would make me go crazy because I just wanted to solve. I wanted to figure it out. Let's get over this. I don't want to have these feelings and this negatives. Now it's exactly the opposite. But fast forward 25 years, right? Now I'm just a turtle, look, fine. I'm not going to fight about this. I go lay down, put my headphones in, listen to a podcast, watch a video, whatever, and I can withdraw and not give a shit.
Yeah.
And I don't care if we don't talk.
Interesting.
I don't care if we don't talk till tomorrow afternoon. I just don't care. And I know at that point, maybe an hour later, I'll feel different.
Yeah.
But my current partner, no, she's not. You okay? What's going on? Are you all right? What did I do? Are you mad at me? Just stop. No, it's all
and that's the thing.
Out of my shell.
It's all good. Just
we can use like octopus energy at work and then use turtle energy at home, and different partners will bring out like that's why it's energetic. It's not who we really are. It's like we're being polarized into these opposite energies. And and if you push a turtle far enough, they'll snap at you. You'll get the opposite energy. And if you push an octopus hard enough, they'll shut down. It's all the energy. But the idea of IMAGO is to really be curious about that. To really hold, like, we both love each other, we both want to reconnect. How can we sort of hold, all of this and just go slow enough? If we go slow enough, the turtle can stay with the problem. The problem is octopus oftentimes gets more and more energetic as they sense the turtle pull away, and that goes faster and faster. But if we can go slow and stay regulated and connected, we can solve that problem in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, they
So
both
is
have
there
really good intentions.
Recently, we had a little tiff in the car, and it was like I'm analyzing this like an observer of what's happening with me and what's happening. And as soon as I started to withdraw, I actually said it. I said, "Look, I'm withdrawing," and it kind of shifted the whole dynamic of where that conversation went from there. And I think my wife actually apologized, and then we, started to mend the things where it wasn't like in the past where I just go into my shell and I'd be like, I'll come out when I'm ready, but I'm not ready." Now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm withdrawing, so we need to fix this.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's where I think we're moving into really interesting times where that kind of shift is easier than it used to be.
You think
Like,
it's
there's a little more
a world
awareness.
dynamic, or are you saying just because
Yeah.
now we're 60 and not 20, 30, or
No, I
40 and we
I
have a
think
little
it's I think it's bigger than that. I really
okay.
do. I think it's bigger than that. I think many of us are awakening and we want love and we want connection and we're sick of the polarization and the divisions and the fight. Like it's getting
Mhm.
old. We watched it on TV for decades and it's kind of an old story.
It really
And
is.
I
Mhm.
think it's just we're longing for something more authentic. And the wiring is just really powerful. It wins, especially if we're tired.
Mhm. Yeah.
We just revert back to those old, well-worn roads and say the same lines and, do our core drama. But I really think those moments where you're like, I'm going to try something new and I'm just going to say what's going on. I'm going to name the defensive response before I flip my lid and I have no choice anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I
mean, the
think it also
turtle
created
energy.
awareness.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say also me saying I'm withdrawing now, or I could sense myself withdrawing now. I think that also triggered something in my wife to be like, oh, okay, we need to work on the dynamic here. Let's talk about you mentioned Dr. T, her philosophy and
Yeah.
communication with intention and perception, and so and that really helps. We've been using that a lot. We kind of got away from
Yeah.
reading her book, but just life is life, but we still
Yeah.
we still
But
think
those
about it.
ideas are powerful,
Hmm.
right? To understand that we all have good intentions, but our impact isn't necessarily aligning to that intention. And we tell ourselves stories, and our partner tells stories, and those stories are usually not actually accurate about right now. There are
Yeah.
fears or there are past.
Right. Something you've done in
Um,
the past. I'm expecting you to do it again right now, and even if it's not
mhm,
true. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Rick, you were about to say something. I
No, I can't.
kind of cut
I'm
you
not
off.
sure. But well, I think I was going to ask. So, what is the definition of imago? Is that like a name of? Is it a? Well,
Harville grabbed it from some pretty, ancient theoretical, like analytical literature. But it just image, it means image in Latin.
Mhm.
And it's over time as we've gotten wiser and done more, information about the brain and stuff, it's actually pretty accurate that we form an idea of who somebody is in our head.
Oh yeah.
And that idea is oftentimes constructed more of our expectations of love than who they really are. So if I grew up in a home where my parents were pretty much on the spectrum, pretty cold, distant, self-involved, whatever, I expect my husband to show up that way. And sometimes I even provoke him into showing up that way just because it's a little more comfortable. Like it matches my expectations of the world. And so I have this image in my psyche of what love is. And I unconsciously choose people that are similar to my early life experiences. And sometimes I will like if you're in your second relationship, you come out of a relationship, you choose the opposite. You're like, oh, well, if I pick somebody who was like this, I'll pick the opposite. But it's just another aspect of your expectations of love. People who
Mhm.
like don't meet our expectations, there's no juice in the gum for us. Like it's just like I know, like on paper, I should be into this person, but I'm not. You know, sometimes it's the craziest person, the most difficult relationship that has the juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
That's true.
idea is that they're matching our image close enough that our psyche says, all right, I get a second chance at getting mom to love me, or dad to accept me, or my older sibling to include me, or, you know, whatever our history is. And that's where the juice is like, oh, I get another chance. And this time it's going to be different. It's going to be better. They're going to stop drinking and I'm going to, you know, finally get their attention. They're going to whatever, stop whatever their things that hurt me in my past. Is that making some sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole part you talked about, the brain imaging, I found really fascinating during the whole COVID mask time, because I was working in the hospital and I would meet a lot of people brand new that, especially that I worked with, coworkers, new nurses, they'd be wearing a mask and I'd only see, this much of their face. And my brain's creating an image of that person. I sometimes it was months before I actually saw what they look like. And then they take their mask off and it's like, I often wondered, like, did my face do what it just did now a second ago? Like, that's what you look like? Because my brain had this totally different picture of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's weird that there's still people running around with masks.
I saw one the other day.
It's like tribal now. It's a tribe.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I never know, like, are they sick and they're trying to protect me, or are they afraid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
hate those
remember even when
things.
we
They
were
were so
kids.
uncomfortable.
All right.
I mean, but you've always seen the Chinese and Japanese folks,
Yeah.
even 20, 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
walking through the
Yeah.
airport in Detroit or wherever, wearing masks. It was
Yeah.
not unusual. I didn't understand why at the time, but,
Mm-hmm.
and actually I still don't. Well, and now that I'm much more educated on the topic, I still don't.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was weird what
Strange
you said
times.
about,
Mm-hmm.
you have the way you feel when you're young. You look for that in a partner, which hits the nail on the head with me. Taking the exact 180, you literally diagnosed the first 57 years of my life.
Yeah.
Right there, you just exactly said it.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of wisdom in this theory.
Now I'm back in, hopefully in the middle of this.
Good. Good. You found the middle.
And it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you can navigate it and use the tools that we're learning through all these different podcasters like yourself. I mean, it doesn't matter what you picked in a way if you can learn to work through it in a positive, loving way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so we just finished a course. We usually do like a in-person weekend workshop, but we did a retreat and we recorded the whole thing, like with television cameras and mics and that whole thing. And so we created like an online digital course coming into this new thing, like, as a 56-year-old person. I don't know how old I am. I'm like, okay, let's create a course, because the book is great, but like you said, it's hard to stick with it, right? It's a lot to read and do the exercise and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like about this course is you kind of take this idea and then you really look at what's going on in your relationship. Like, what are your unmet needs that you brought into the relationship that you're not really necessarily conscious of, yours or your partner's? And understanding, oh, okay, that's what you needed then. That's hard for me to give you now, and why? And typically, just like the turtle octopus energies, I'm drawn to my partner because he's limited in similar ways as my parents. And he's limited in those ways for really good reasons, like the way he grew up, controlled by the church and judge. And, so he became a turtle who's like, I'm going to decide when I want to do stuff. You can't control me. I'm going to that sort of gets created out of a very intrusive, controlling environment. So of course I fall in love with the turtle and then I want him to be different. And he falls in love with an octopus and he wants me to be different. And so in this course, you sort of map out all this stuff so that you can navigate it more consciously. So, I think we're really looking at like, so you have your triggers, right? Those are your defensive patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what turtle and octopus stuff is about. It's like, when you get reactive, what do you do to protect yourself? And what does your partner do to protect themselves? And then how does that, escalate? But underneath the reactivity are the stories, the perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And those stories are driven by your memories.
Yeah.
So, like, if I start doing this, you're going to use your memory networks to guess what my intention is.
It's a map of Michigan.
Map of Michigan, right? I must be
my
one
first
from
impulse
Minnesota.
was stop.
Yes.
Yeah, stop. I have a question. If I'm a Nazi, I want to hit you. Like, there's nothing innately threatening, but it's all based on what story your mind's going to make up. And you only can make it up out of your history.
Yeah. Right.
So,
well, and that kind of goes to what Jim said earlier about with the face mask. Your mind will will fill in the blanks.
yeah, complete
Like
the gestalt.
You can look at a paragraph with all the H's missing and you're not even going to notice it. You're just going to read it and it's going to just fill it in. Same with music, same with relationships and that. And same with you putting your hand up. Your brain just fills or instantly makes that connection.
Exactly. So it's about like getting like kind of teaming up with your partner to unpack your baggage together to understand, okay, so these are your stories, these are your unmet needs, this is your history that keeps coming in here. And when it comes in between us, it blocks you from really seeing me. Just like my history is blocking me from really seeing you. But we can figure out a new way of relating.
Who does this? I mean, who takes that? I mean, everybody's so busy. It seems like, we got to do this. We got to do that. Who's taking time to sit down with their partner and say, hey, let's unpack our baggage.
Right? I know it would be way better, right? Yeah. It would be way better instead, because is it okay for me to say we're dumb humans and the only way we learn is through pain, and the only way is like, maybe our third divorce, maybe the pain of this relationship, like it's only through pain that we go, well, maybe we should go for a weekend and learn this. Right? I mean, but it would be way better. And I do think the younger generations are more proactive. They oftentimes grew up with a high conflict home and they want to avoid that. And they're like, it's worth putting in the time. I think they like digital courses. That's part of why we made it, for those people with social anxiety or public figures or whoever just doesn't want to, they want to do it on their own time, their own pace. But it's like an 8-week challenge. If you do 3 hours a week for 8 weeks, you can finish it in 8 weeks. So,
that's wonderful.
Most people would say, yeah, I can do 3 weeks, and it's an app, like you can watch the videos on the phone and there's worksheets. It's all very like structured. So
partners sit down and do this together, or are there?
Yeah, they need to do about an hour of work a week together.
Okay.
So they watch some videos.
Anybody can handle that.
Yeah, they watch some videos on their own time. They could watch them together. They do a little journaling, like what are my unmet needs? What's like my story? Where does it come from? So they sort of unpack some of that. And then they do a formal dialogue, sharing that with each other. And what's really cool is we recorded 10 dialogues. So we recorded all these conversations with real couples unpacking their baggage. So you can see, that's what that conversation could look like. It's very structured, beginning and, not 3 hours of like, when is this dialogue going to end? Because the turtles are like, this is too long. No, at my limits.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you have these couples sign up for your course, is it usually the wife dragging the husband, husband dragging the wife,
I love that. Yeah.
or is
There's
it
always a dragger. I'll tell you that
right?
much, Rick. There's always a dragger, and then there's a draggy.
And is it hard to get the draggy on board with this
Well, this is what's kind of
opening
cool.
up and getting vulnerable and stuff? Because
Yeah.
frankly, I would be a seriously reluctant draggy.
100%. Yes. So this is the thing: is the octopus energy is often the dragger, right? The turtle energy is the draggy. But the turtle loves it because there's worksheets. It's technical. It's like a manual. There's like 10 answers and I pick one. It's structured. It begins, it ends. And so the turtles end up being the biggest fans. The engineers, the guys love this because it's productive. It's, like I said, it ends. Like that is my husband hates when the conversation does not end.
Yeah.
That's
why we set our podcast for an hour. We're like,
right.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, you got to have a structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's structure. It's taking turns and there's structure. And that, like, literally, do I have a manual here? I don't think I have one, but it's like literally it starts with the beginning of a sentence and then you fill it in.
Okay.
So like a message I received in childhood was, and where I heard that message, like the example of where I was when I took, either implicitly or explicitly. And then there's like, it goes, there's stems and it just keeps leading you to like, and the way that shows up in our relationship. And when I react that way, I imagine you might feel, and how I'd like a new message I could give myself. So it's not like we're trying to control what you say, but we're giving you scaffolding to get a little deeper and think about your impact and your story, your perception. So, I mean, that's kind of funny because usually at the end, it's the most resistant person that's calling everybody and going, you have to take this course. Really, Joe, like you got to go take it. You got to do it. It's, it's funny.
Yeah. So, and is this like male, female partners? Because at the beginning of this podcast, you were talking about working with people, like any kind of partnership, but is this mostly designed for couples?
It's mostly designed for couples. The particular course that I'm talking about is for couples. Same-sex couples. We had couples from Australia, Austria, South Korea, like, it translates different cultures, all of that, but mostly romantic relationships. But then, like, I have a course on relational sales and relational leadership. How do you think about the unmet needs of your employees and the messages that they received and how their performance is tied to these messages? So like if they believe, if they heard these horrible messages, like, don't try because, you can't win, something like that, right? They probably don't complete projects. And so then you start thinking about, well, how can I let them know that it's okay if they make mistakes, that I'm not gonna, we're just gonna work together on or whatever. I mean, just as an example. Or when you think about sales and thinking about, well, what does this person really want? Instead of trying to sell my thing to them. So, I mean, it can be applied across the things that most people leave and think, oh, I could talk to my kids differently. I could talk to my friends differently. I could listen better.
By asking a few good questions, really is on that note, and a sales guy for my entire adult life. I'm in the solar industry now down here. My real job. Unfortunately, the podcast does not pay the mortgage, but
the solar panels do.
We're working on it. Oh yeah, it doesn't even pay for itself yet. But
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, asking the right questions is really the key. And finding, and not, I mean, I don't try to sell anybody anything when I'm there.
No, when you really do good sales, you don't sell. You build relationships.
Right.
Yeah. And if you can't solve their problem, you just maintain the relationship because you don't know who they know.
But that's a good fit with having a definite end, because what, if I'm talking to someone about a new solar pool heating system or solar electric or Tesla Powerwall batteries, I mean, there's an end in sight. They want that. I want to give it to them. Let's solve this. Let's get together and make this happen. In relationships, though, it seems like I think a lot of men and women, doesn't matter, that the biggest problem in communication, especially in an argument setting, is moving the goalposts of one way. There's no definite end. So now I will not if there's a confrontation or a discussion, it doesn't matter if it's politics or personal, whether it's with my friends or my girlfriend, I make sure I know what we're talking about. So that doesn't get changed, because that does get changed. I notice I think women tend to do it more than guys do, that they constantly will, well, yeah, that might be true, but then this is this, and now you're not talking about
everything's
what you
connected to
you
everything.
just moved the goalpost. So let's get over this and then let's move on. Why are we talking about that? It's not connected.
Exactly.
It's really important to stay on point. And
yeah. So there's on point, but there's also this whole paradigm that we haven't talked about, which is that if we're in a competitive paradigm or a problem-solving paradigm, it probably isn't going to fix the issue, because it's really a disconnection problem. It's really, am I important to you? Do you love me? Will you hear me? Like, feeling seen and heard and valued is what everybody longs for. And we tend, because of our school system and everything, we tend to problem solve, notice what's wrong, whatever it is. So I think, like, the goal post, if you think you're solving, I don't know, how to have more sex or how to pay the bills or where we're going to go on vacation or whatever, you're missing the point. Because the real point is, do I matter to you? Or whatever our unmet need is. That's why it's important to know what is it that they really need.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, because you were talking about in sales, you're meeting the needs of the person that wants to buy. But how often do we think about the needs of our partners? What do you really need?
Right.
Yeah, you want this done, you want that done, or whatever, but what do you really need? What's really going to support you in this relationship?
Exactly. And that's where the program is a little bit bait and switch, because, you go in wanting to solve problems, but you realize that you're going to solve more problems by adding positive energy, by daily appreciations, celebrating at least 3 things your partner said or did that you appreciate today. Adding more physical touch, adding more caring behaviors intentionally, like learning what's that one behavior I do that really lands in your system as love. Head scratch, a back rub, words of encouragement, thinking
time.
of you at the store, just like, what is it? And really becoming that expert on keeping that connection going and keeping the positive energy going. Of course, there's always going to be a problem. There just is. Like, however God built us, we're not done yet. And our theory says conflict is growth trying to happen. So we keep hitting little patches of conflict in order to push us to grow.
That makes sense.
Right. And so you're like, oh, okay. So, like, my colleague, I like this analogy. She talks about on the beach, like the metal detectors,
Oh yeah.
beep, beep, beep. It's just like, when you hit the metal, you don't just stand there and go, oh, look, it's beeping. She's like, you dig. And that is the idea of conflict, is not to just stay in it, but to dig, to understand what is happening here in the space between us, what's calling us to grow, to get closer, to share more and understanding about ourselves. Like, that's really what conflict is designed to pull us into more connection. But of course, all our wiring is designed for threat response and defense.
Mm-hmm. Or
Yeah.
shutdown.
Yeah.
Which is turtling.
Yeah.
No, and as you said that, I just realized that by, moving the goalpost thing, that I use that tactic as just to win an argument, not really to fix anything.
Mm.
I mean,
I'm
really,
kind
if you
of in
think
love
about
with you
that.
right now, Rick.
No, I just kind of had a revelation
Great, thank you.
that I really do use that tactic often, and it's really just to win.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really fix anything.
No, and usually you end up losing what you really want.
Yeah.
We win the argument, but we lose the war.
And it's interesting too.
Perhaps.
We were having a conversation the other day about global warming, and I'm like,
no, well,
and I was like, "You're moving the goalpost." He's like,
no, but I wasn't. I just wanted to know what we were talking about because we started with one thing and it moved off to something. It was just yesterday too, by the way.
Was that yesterday?
It
Oh my
was.
God, it feels like a week ago.
Yeah.
So I want to just touch on money real briefly because we mentioned it.
Yep.
Because what's cool about money is that we have a relationship with money, and we bring our unmet needs to money.
What does that mean?
So, well, let's just think about like, what did you need growing up? What is it that was like, what was your biggest challenge? Was it to like have your thoughts and feelings matter, for you to be free from judgment, to to get acknowledgement, attention? Like, what was your challenge, do you think?
In my youth?
Growing up. Yeah,
growing up. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, you were pretty middle class and really.
Yeah.
No, not about money.
I wouldn't
Not
say
about money. This is psychology. This is psychology.
What
like,
age? I guess
let's go with 7. What was your
7
challenge?
years old, my challenge?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did
7
you
years
feel
old,
controlled by
second
people? Or did
grade.
you feel like people are always telling me what to do and think and feel? Or did you just want more attention?
We're older than you, right? Thinking back to when we were 7, pretty difficult.
Anyway, we'll just give it that was just for an example. Let's say
Yeah.
it's to feel like a sense of autonomy.
I think it was more for me a sense of belonging, of fitting
Okay,
in.
great. So let's just go with that. So then we take that unmet need and we apply it to money, and it forms a narrative. Like, if I make enough money, I'll belong, or money becomes a tool to belong, or or money even becomes a reason to say I don't belong, like they have more or they have less and I don't fit. So we take our psychology to money, and it's all unconscious, and we form scripts about, well, rich people are like this and poor people are like this. And so it's important for us to start to understand, what's my money narrative that I'm running in the background, just so that we're not unconscious about it. And oftentimes then in our partnerships, we have very different narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for myself in my 20s, I became like, I want to be successful. I'm going to transition my life to do whatever I need to do, or change my way of being to do what I need to be successful. And that quickly morphed into, heck with being more successful. I want to be more connected, more spiritual, in that realm. So it's almost like I left the idea of making money and doing anything like that behind. And my attitude towards money for a long time, like even probably 20 years ago when I was running a yoga studio, a dear friend of mine said, "What do you think? What are your thoughts on money?" I was like, "Don't need it, don't care about it, don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to think about money ever."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the narrative then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people think money's dirty, money's bad, money corrupts. Like, I have to choose between valuing people and valuing money. But the idea, it just like in our relationships, is just to become more conscious. Is that what we want to operate out of? But most people with money either struggle making it saving it or spending it, enjoying it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we look
For
at,
me,
well, what's the reactive pattern that, in my relationship with money?
Yeah, I don't think about money often because I really, I've brought this up before on the podcast. I don't want to see my check. I don't want to see my bank account. I know the universe will provide when things are
I
getting
love
low.
that.
I just have faith.
We also
Something will
have a
pop into my
very
life.
responsible and trustworthy wife.
I do, and she enjoys money and numbers and taking care of all that. And I just, it's a good dynamic. It works for us.
That's really cool. I like that because you've kind of, split up where the energy of your minds are going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I just think, I mean, we could talk about this more in depth, but I think just looking at that, we do have a relationship with it because it's part of our culture. And I agree with you. And I'd like everyone to get to that point where there's no anxiety about money.
Yeah. I
Right.
definitely don't have any anxiety about money.
Right. But 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 most of us bring our unmet needs to it. And it becomes a way for us to prove ourselves or keep ourselves safe or feel free. Those are typically some of our core needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just an oddball in that
I don't
regards, I
think so.
feel.
I think it's really
No?
cool, actually. I
Yeah, it's
like
cool, but I
that.
don't think it's the norm. I think most people are watching what they make. They're watching their bank account. They're
Not in
thinking
the
about
Western
savings
world.
and no.
It's not the norm in the Western world, but there's so many cultures. Costa Rica is very much like Pura Vida, God will provide. There's mango trees growing on the tree. There's fish in the ocean. Like
Yeah.
I have 4 walls and a roof. So I I do think in the West there's like a matrix that we can get really involved in, and it transmits us anxiety. Like you better worry about something. Worry,
Yeah.
worry,
Maybe.
panic,
Yeah.
But yeah, and money of course becomes a lightning rod for anxiety.
Well, I got a feeling I know Jim started off saying, "Hey, let's get into it about it." Then we spent a half hour not talking about this angle.
But it's
And
just so interesting
we
to talk
probably
to
should
you
have.
both.
Well,
There's
we really
always
should have.
another
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Let's delve into this further in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, or you can cut it all out. Either way is okay with
No,
me.
I think
Oh,
just
that's great.
that one part where we were talking about that one topic. Probably that's what
Yeah,
he meant.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed getting to know both of you, and
Likewise.
I love that you're different and that you're doing this together and like bringing different perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah, we're different, but we also share so much, so many similarities. That's
Exactly. Well, you're both turtles.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't realize. We didn't even know we
For
were
the time-
turtles.
Yeah, probably. Not with each other though. I think we're both octopuses.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, that's actually I see that a lot with men that they bring that kind of problem-solving energy at work, and at home they want peace and harmony and
Yeah, that's really my goal right now in my life is that exact word.
Peace and harmony.
Just peace in my head.
That's been my goal since probably 7 years old, because 7 years old, I put my hand through my bedroom window one night because I was so sick of my parents fighting every night. It's like peace has been a theme in my life for since then, probably even longer, because I didn't want
Great.
all
Well,
that
there we
fighting in
go.
my
We
life.
figured out your unmet need is peace. That's it. That's your unmet need.
Yeah.
Well, after every podcast, we have this little book here. We take notes and put stars, and we want that, and just so we can remember in the future. So I'm gonna put under you next time. We have to start with how you felt when you were 7, and no, seriously, because I didn't chime in at all, and I would.
Yeah.
I think
that would be a really
start.
good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love that.
We grew up fairly close together. We had a lot of we spent a lot of time together, but I think we have these unknown and also like what's the right word? Like ideals of what was going on in each other's homes, but we've never discussed it.
No, we haven't.
We never have.
Because I always thought your house over on Rosedale with the pool would come over, mom and mom.
You probably thought my life was
and
great.
whatever husband she happened to have as a foreshadow at that time. You know, it was always just partying and drinking. My mom's off back smoking dope. His mom was not a dope smoker, but there's plenty of booze. But just
yeah.
Wow, I can't wait till we talk
for
again.
Next time. Okay,
Yeah.
This is going to be a good show. Okay, well, thank you both for your time, and this is really fun.
Thank you for your time and coming on and being a guest.
Well, and plus it's been fun just getting to know you a little bit. So
absolutely,
I want to know what you felt when you were 7.
Yeah,
that's where we're going with
next
this.
episode.
Michelle, it's been great. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Right,
bye. Stay safe.
So if you just listened to this podcast and you appreciate the content and the work that we're doing, we would love your support. Look in the comment section of this episode. Subscribe, rate us, comment. This gets our podcast in front of other listeners. And if you noticed, we don't have advertisers. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help keep it this way. Become a supporter right now. We'd appreciate it. I'm Jim the Yogi.
I'm Rick the Beachman.